Do you have pain on the outside of your hip? Do you have pain all around, maybe across the front, or it's really sore right on this hip bone or into your glute? If so, this video is going to be great for you. Hi, I'm Dr. Putney from Wellington Family Chiropractic, and today I'm going to talk about a condition known as greater trochanteric pain syndrome. So what the heck does that mean? Well, the greater trochanter is that bony projection on the side of your hip. So if you feel your hip and you feel that bone as you move your leg around, that's the greater trochanter. Pain syndrome just means you have pain on it, around the front of it, or beside it or behind it. This is fairly common with my patients, more common in females. And a lot of times patients come in and it's just sore to the touch. Maybe they've gone to other doctors in the past and they've been diagnosed with bursitis, but it's very stubborn and it can really shut down your day or decrease the amount of willpower you have to go out and do the things you want to do because of that stubborn pain. So what causes it? Well, there's usually a few conditions that cause it. One is bursitis. So if you look at the hip, there's a lot of little bursa around the hip, and if those get inflamed, that can cause this type of pain syndrome. Another one would be IT band syndrome, so that pesky area along the side of the hip down into the knee. If that's dysfunctional, sometimes that can lead to this type of pain syndrome. Or it can be injury to the glute or tendinopathies of the glute minimus and medius, that can contribute to pain in this area. So that's usually the culprits. Why do those things happen? If you have IT band dysfunction, if you have bursitis, or if you have glute problems, why would those things happen? Well, if we're talking the IT band, typically we have too much tension, and then that overlaps into bursitis because there's a bursa that sits below, underneath the IT band. And if the IT band's dysfunctional and too tight, it presses too much force into the bursa or that sac, and that excess tension or friction over time can lead to inflammation of that area, and then you get the bursitis. So the bursa sac is inflamed, that's bursitis, that creates pain. So again, we got to work on the IT band to calm down the bursitis. And then what happens with the glute? Well, it can come from a sudden injury, or a lot of times mechanically the hip's not working well because the hips are the glutes are inhibited or weak, and mechanically we're just re-injuring that area over and over again. You get tendinopathies causing a lot of pain in that area. So how do you get out of this? Well, you've got to work on the soft tissue in terms of trigger points, stiffness around the hip that you can do with stretches and self-massage. But then the big culprit then, or the big answer there is, what do we need to strengthen to improve the function? And typically it's going to be those pesky hip abductors, those muscles that move the leg away from midline. They abduct the leg or the hip, that we've got to work on. And if you can strengthen that area, get the soft tissue healthier, typically this type of pain syndrome improves dramatically. So what I'm going to do is give you some easy stretches, some easy exercises that you can do at home to work on this pesky hip pain yourself. Okay, so the next stretch we're going to go over is the supine, or just lying on your back, piriformis stretch. So for this, Jacob is going to start with his leg crossed in front of him, and then he's going to pull this knee straight that direction until he can't go any further. So again, this stretches the piriformis, the glutes, all along the back side of the hip through here. And then what he can do is contract his knee into his hands, so into that resistance for 7 seconds. Relax, and then he can increase the stretch by bringing it further. So each time you contract, relax, a lot of times you'll notice you can stretch a little bit further once you let go of that contraction. So what you can do is 3 sets of the contract, relax, and you can do this stretch 1 to 2 times a day. All right, so the next stretch we're going to do is a standing psoas stretch. So this is really good for the hip flexor along the front of the hip. So you just need a chair. You're going to put your foot on that chair, and so the setup here is, just as you can see, his torso is going to stay upright. He's going to have a slight posterior tilt. Perfect. And then he's going to drift forward, keeping the back leg straight, upright torso, and he should feel a big stretch along the front of his hip there. And then to contract and relax with this stretch, he can act as if he's sliding that back foot forward. He'll feel a contract, 7 seconds, relax. Then he sinks deeper into the stretch, maintaining that position of the torso. So you can do 3 sets of the contract and relax per day, or you can do it twice a day. Okay, so for the hips, the next exercise we're going to go over is a hip hinge squat. So we're going to do a couple different things. We're going to work on building strength, but also working on the hip hinge, which is very important for your daily movements. So Jacob's going to demonstrate this. So what I always tell people first is he's going to shoot his butt back, almost like you're closing a car door or a dresser drawer with your butt. If you were going to do that, you would not softly around. You would just stick that straight back. So he's using his arms to kind of create a counterbalance. He's sinking into his heels, and he comes right back up. So he goes down, taps the chair, right back up. We're keeping the knees from translating too far in front of the feet. We want weight distributed across the foot, and then he should feel this mostly in his glutes as he comes back up, and a good hip hinge there without too much rounding of the lower back. We don't want to see this big curvature happening there. It should stay relatively neutral like Jacob did. This is the hip hinge chair squat. 3 sets of 10 is all you need. You can do this daily or every other day. Okay, so the next exercise is called a side bridge. And what we're going to do for this is the setup is Jacob's lying on his side. You'll do this on both sides. He's got his knees slightly bent. And so for the first way we're going to show how to do this exercise, he's going to keep his knees bent, and his knees, bottom knees, is going to be one of the anchor spots or contact points onto the floor when he does the exercise. So he's going to cue his shoulder by pushing his elbow firmly into the ground. You want to think about pushing it away, and that packs your shoulder. And then he's going to bring his hips off the ground, keeping tension in the abdomen again. And you want a relatively straight line from the knee, hip to shoulder. You don't want to be sagging down or overdo it to where you're here. It should be a nice straight line. Tension here as you hold. And you can hold this 30 seconds at a time, up to 2 to 3 minutes in terms of building up to that. Really good exercise. The way you can increase the amount of work for yourself is you're going to straighten your leg. Now you can either keep your feet stacked, or if you need a little extra balance, you can bring that top leg slightly behind. The same cue goes here. Pressure here, straight line, and again, we're just holding this. You may be only able to hold it for 15 to 20 seconds when you first start, but you can build up to holding it a minute, doing that 2 to 3 minutes, and you can do this one every day. All right, guys, so there you have it. Some easy stretches, some easy exercises to work on this condition at home. As always, if you ever have questions, we're always here for you at 859-309-1996 or at wellchiropractic.com. Have a great day.